A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to today's edition of the Evening Review. My name is Toibon Jabela. Let's look at some of the headlines that are in tomorrow's Namibian Sun. Tonight on the set, we are joined by Simon Amunime. He is a spokesperson of the Affirmative Repositioning movement to talk to us, among others, some of the issues they discussed at a press conference held in Windhoek yesterday. Simon, welcome to the show.
No, thank you very much, Toivo, and greetings to the viewers.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, prior to your to your press conference yesterday, we saw viral videos earlier in the week of you and other members of your movement confronting Chinese employers, and of course that is part of what you were discussing yesterday at your press conference, saying that the Namibian state essentially is captured by the Chinese. What makes you think? What makes you come to that conclusion?
Yeah, of course, everybody have seen what have transpired. It's either the mainstream media or the social media. What have happened, of course, is Namibian black workers that have been exploited by a Chinese-owned company. And this is just even a few, because if it's just happening at one place, it doesn't mean just it's there.
Yeah.
But of course, these things are happening as a result because authorities that were supposed to enforce this thing have retreated. They have retreated so that they don't care about carrying out these mandates and inspection and making sure that this type of things doesn't happen. Why we are saying the state is captured is because they are pro-Chinese. We are in diplomatic relations with a lot of countries, such as Cuba and many others. But every time when you dare to touch a Chinese, it's like you've touched a children of a politician, you've touched a child of a president.
Yeah.
They feel very agitated. That's why it's very clear to us that, of course, our state is captured by Chinese nationals. And if you dare to do anything to them, you've declared some sort of a war with them. That's why for us, really, it's captured, and the Chinese are the center of that.
Yeah, sure. Just Simon, how do other businesses in the country compare to the Chinese? Because I hear this thing a lot. The Chinese are doing this, the Chinese are doing that. But are we over-focusing too much on the Chinese and forgetting what other people, including black businesses, are doing to their employees? Or what is your assessment of how other businesses are treating employees in comparison to the Chinese?
Yes, of course we have a crisis in terms of industrial relations in the country and labor matters. Of course, because the ministry that exists, which is the Ministry of Labor and Industrialization and Employment Creation, is very lazy and very weak. They do anything. That's why the captains of the industry, employers, a white monopoly capital, whether business people don't regard the Labor Act of 2007 in this country, they don't take any law that governs industrial relations and employment serious. But With the Chinese is a different matter, because of course we are not xenophobic against the Chinese or something, but these are arrivalists, people that came from somewhere into your country. You are visitors, meaning your stay in that particular area depends on your conduct. But these friends of ours, of course they are our brothers, they have no regard for our laws, they have no regard for human beings, they have no regard for anybody. And it's just in terms of their modus operandi of doing business. You cannot buy without cash at their stores. They don't, so they dictate how to do business. You ask them, do you even have good standing certificate? Do you have, they don't comply with those things. They are not interested even in complying in terms of the laws and legislation that exists in terms of doing business. Now, in particular at the place where we were, it's people that have been employed there for more than 7 years. They get paid every day by hand, $50, $60 for 7 consecutive years. So it's people that don't have social security, it's people that don't have transport allowance, and they are accommodated into some sort of a room there for storage. Human beings that are accommodated on site. So it's just to say that they at least even have admitted that we're wrong and something must be done to correct it. But all we are saying is that we are not having any personal issue against Chinese national, but the modus operandi of them doing business, they must not be some sort of exempted by our laws because of maybe the diplomatic relations that we, or the part they've played during the war, during our dark days of the struggle. All we are saying is that the same way we treat a black businessman must be the same way we treat a white business person, a Chinese or whatever foreigner. Their treatment must be the same and all of us must be subjected to the law. But with our Chinese brother, they have some sort of special arrangement, be it from the police, be it from politicians. You saw, I think the media knows that, I think it's a few weeks or a month ago when the police issued a directive that we must give maximum protection to our Chinese friends and those. So they are very exploitive by their own nature. They just like to exploit human beings, and they don't treat other black people as equal to them. That's why we specifically took to say that because Chinese are everywhere. You can say that, for example, white people are also doing business, but Chinese are at my village in Onangali where I come from. Chinese are deep in the informal settlement. They've spread because we have given the freedom to do business everywhere. But that was supposed also to come with some sort of responsibility from them and say, how do we respect human life? How do we respect the dignities of workers? How do we share? Because business must never just be about making profit and you shipping it out to China. But you in the community where you are doing business must be able to benefit. Yeah.
What was the reaction of some of those that you've confronted? What was the outcome of that? Are they promising to do things better? Are they opposed to your demands? What was the conclusion?
Yes, of course, the confrontation happened because we were very angry because of the nature of how the employees came. The employees came, some are not working properly. Some, the Chinese is even beating the guy at his private part. You are not sure whether the person can make children or not. So it was very inhuman for us. That's why you say, when there's arrogance, you confront it with arrogance. You cannot go and laugh and say, no, say, we had this story, like you are at a restaurant. So we had to go in full force and show that what they are doing really is unacceptable, because you can't treat Namibia as some sort of colony of China. Then, of course, after that, we had to engage the next day. So we engaged, then they admitted guilt and said they are going to work. So they even gave us a mandate to go and work on contracts for workers. We had to draw for them contracts, at least have a minimum wage. So what came out of that whole confrontation is positive, because the workers, more than 50 of the workers have now employment contracts, they have now Social Security Commission, they have transport allowance, and the company is going to make provision for protective gears. These guys assemble glass, very dangerous. So any one of them is having a bandage somewhere, wounded people, because the working environment is dangerous. But they've admitted and said, no, we've made a mistake and we are willing to correct it. It won't happen again. And they've made that commitment, and we reached consensus, and the workers are happy. So it was not just some sort of maybe stunt or some confrontation. Result came out of it, and it's good. Everyone makes a mistake, but we must all sit and correct it for it doesn't happen again. So it was beneficial to the worker, and we look forward to having a good relationship between the employers and those employees going forward.
Indeed. Now, speaking of modus operandi, there's been, of course, the manner in which you chose to handle the matter has sparked a lot of debates. Some people are actually praising that it was the only language that some of these exploitative employers can understand, while others are saying that you should have been a bit more diplomatic. Do you think that if you had approached that Chinese employer in a very friendly and flowery kind of language, do you think what you are saying has been achieved now could have been achieved?
No way, of course. You see, we are observing all the reaction from the public. Some are positive, some are negative in terms of what transpired. But look, we are a movement that is, of course, self-defining and self-directing. We are engaged into a revolutionary program, and we determine the approach we are going to use, who we are going to, and how it's going to happen. So somebody who's at the comfort of a bar somewhere with drinking a beer, and someone at the comfort of a restaurant having coffee, wants to dictate how we must conduct the programs of the AR movement. We'll never allow that, because the principle is always, if you allow others to dictate and define what you must do, you will end up being a consequence and a construction of their imagination. Because they will say, do it like this, no, do it like this, do it. So we have our own approach in terms of depending on that scenario. So if we could have went light and write letters and emails, nothing could have come out. It could just have been a joke. Because them, they are used to these things. Because even the workers are saying, no, some people from labor comes here, they just go upstairs, they laugh, they go, nothing happens. 7 consecutive years. So you find a person saying, no, but why did you not go there professionally, discuss nice, dress a tie and a suit, and maybe a diary, and just discuss properly? But that person doesn't ask themselves, when the Chinese national was kicking someone's private part, was that professional? It was not professional, and they were neither there to condemn or get involved in that particular matter. So that is determined, because at every action there's always a reaction. So because the nature of how the people came is people that are injured, people that are wounded, someone cannot walk properly. There's no way you can go diplomatically, but it doesn't mean that this is the only resort that we have. It depends on the circumstances and the scenario, but strategic engagement and diplomacy can work, but depending on the scenario. So nothing could have came out positive if we could have went there and act maybe like a nurse and do properly those things.
Now there was there is a headline in today's The Villager newspaper saying that the police visited your offices, the AR offices, after that confrontation. Is it true? And if it's true, what was the nature of their visit?
No, we have received, I think, 2 inspectors from the Namibian police, but theirs was on to say, because they saw from the commotion and the confrontation that, no, we heard there are people that are sleeping there. So they are from the women trafficking unit in the police. So they came there just to seek information in terms of maybe there's abduction, there's kidnapping, women trafficking. Maybe they are getting people even from Chicago to sleep there, because people sleep on site, they don't stay at their houses. So it was just in connection to say, how did you guys found out? How did the confrontation? But it's not that maybe they came to arrest anyone or to come and harass us. We are very clear in terms of what we do, and we are not intimidated by that. But of course, we comply with the authority, because they are there to protect our rights and the rights of everybody. So it was merely some sort of formality, so they are also doing their job, and we can disclose that there is really nothing threatening to say maybe they come to arrest Amunime.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Then, you know, in law there's something called locus standi, which is really to say, in law, what gives you the legitimacy to do something. So in this case, of course, you are a political movement, and you were dealing with what is largely a labor matter. Let's talk about the Revolutionary Union. What is the status of the union? Maybe what is the status of the union?
Yes, no, good, we'll get to that. But before we went to that question, I just wanted to discuss, particularly after this whole incident. It was shocking for us to receive calls from the Chinese embassy. It's an institution of the state calling you personally and saying, no, we not happy. We saw the video, you pointing a finger at the Chinese. The Chinese people there in China are not happy with that conduct. Please stop it. We will help you during the war. Then I'm saying, these guys, an official from an institution of the state, want to resolve and condemn things through a telephonic conversation. So we said, no, we don't take those things serious. If you want to engage, write a letter. We meet at your embassy or at our offices. Then there's those excuses of saying that, no, it's COVID, we do telephonic conversation. So maybe wanting to assume that us black people will take COVID there too. So it's something very disturbing, and we are actually telling the embassy that we respect institutions and the establishment and the role they play. And the ambassador of China to Namibia is someone that must really play a part in this. Because if this thing happened at one Chinese company, does not mean these incidences are only happening there, meaning it can happen everywhere. So we then are calling upon that embassy to send out a memorandum to all Chinese-owned businesses across the country.
Yes.
You must inform them to reorganize their businesses operation. Tell them that they must comply with all relevant legislation that are there. They must comply with the Labor Act, and they must put their house in order. Because we are giving them the month of September. Because from October, we are going to go hard with the revolutionary program to make sure that every business in this country is going to be in compliance with the law, with the Labor Act, and all those things that govern these businesses. So he has this September month to engage all Chinese-owned businesses and make sure things, because if nothing is not going to happen, we are going to go region by region, town by town, shop by shop, mall by mall. If we just hear that this Chinese store, no good standing certificate, no people, shut it down. The next store, close it down. This one, close it down. So because there's no one that is going to be exempted, there's nothing special. If I have a buy in the informal settlement and I don't have a certificate to operate after 10 o'clock, police come and close it down. I'm a black person, I have to comply with the law. So we made that clarion call to the ambassador of China, and we hope they are going to follow suit. Because the confrontation approach, I don't think it's going to be very good for diplomatic relations. Of course, we made it very clear to them. One, we value the diplomatic relations that exist between Namibia and China. We appreciate their contribution during our dark days of the struggle, but that must never mean that it must come at the expense of a black majority of our people. We must do business in a friendly and an equal manner. So we have made that very clear to the embassy, and we hope that they are going to follow suit. Otherwise, then we'll start with this confrontation, and it's not going to be well for us and well for them. In terms of local standing, of course, that's why then we made the determination in 2020 to say that we are on a constant basis approach with labor-related matters. But as an organization, that's not our sole mandate to get involved in labor issues, because others will come and say it's politically motivated and those things. But you have to do it, because those that are there have retreated, and some of them are in the hands of politicians. So we know the Ministry of Labor is in the hands of politicians. The existing union, especially those that are affiliate of Southwest Africa, are in the hands of politicians. So people are just left like that. So it's kind of a playground where there's no rules. You do whatever you want. Employers, if you don't want, so they have two choices: either for you to work and be exploited, or either for you to stay without a job. So people choose to be exploited and have a job, rather than you saying I want to be exploited and be unemployed. That's why as a movement we say now, we have a side of struggle that has to do with social justice. So even if we are not a union, we will always intervene when there's injustices happening, and the law, there's nothing that is being done by the law. But we've realized that you'll go and end up with court challenges, legal matters, and those things that are costly, and sometimes they even becomes very disadvantaging to the workers. So that's why we made the determination to establish the sixth side of struggle, where we established two institutions: progressive judiciary that will be dealing with the courts, then we established the revolutionary union. That submission was done in January, but we've been exchanging correspondence here and there. But you know, even our institutions, how they operate with Southwest Africa, They are scared, of course, with the emergence of the revolutionary union. It's not going to be business as usual. So there have been deliberate delays. We are hearing they've been discussing our constitution at the Southwest Africa headquarters after hours and just find ways. So we have been in touch with the Labour Commissioner, but we are very hopeful and anticipating even by next week we will have the certificate, because the last correspondence we had was only minor errors. They say, no, you write a big T, it must be a small t. No, it's double A's. No, this word is repeating. It's grammatical matters. But those things were not faced. They had the problem of you having a word there like militant, radical. So I don't know. They're saying when you say we are going to be a militant union, they're saying we are going to carry guns and show people and shoot people in the working environment. It's unfriendly. Remove those things. Labor, you must please be in the
harmonious.
Yes, harmonious. But we are saying we are a revolutionary union. We are not going. So those things we had to compromise and remove them for the sake of progress. But there is no any other excuse that that institution is going to use not to grant us a certificate. The feedback has been positive, and we anticipate by next week we might get that certificate. And whenever you hear we receive that certificate, you'll just hear today, no, Namibian Sun have been taken over by RU. No, Orongo Mine have been taken over. Coca-Cola have been taken over. Pick and Pay have been taken over. So things are not going to be the same. Yeah. And the working class, things are going to change for them, and we are really looking forward to that. And what we want to say is, of course, we have established this baby as an institution, but it's going to function on its own. When that certificate comes, forget about seeing Job Amupanda, Dean Oyoma, Simon Amunime getting involved in labor matters. So they're going to recruit, get its own leadership, independent, and make their own decision. We are going to continue the political movement, and we are not going to deal with workers. Because the problem that we have now in what is happening in the labor industries, because unions are affiliated and controlled by people that are in the ruling party. A secretary general serving the central committee of a political party. And these people are business people. How will this guy act on businesses that are owned by his friend? So we, for example, if I own a shop, Radical Books, and we are not paying workers, RU must come in and lock down that shop and say we must treat employees better. They must be able to come to the AR headquarters and say, we are hearing there are staff compliments here that are not happy. Yeah. So institutions must be able to function in that order.
Indeed. The final question to you, Simon, then is the statement that you issued a week ago again, the movement issued a week ago. You were not happy with the budget revelations of the City of Windhoek. AR summoned its 2 representatives on the city council. Was that a gimmick, or is it a genuine summoning of your members to get an explanation? And what is the status of that?
Yes, of course, thank you, Toivo. We've been receiving that question from most media houses. What we want to explain is to say that the Affirmative Repositioning movement have 2 representatives on the City of Windhoek Council out of 15. The other 13 belongs to different political formations. There were reports in the newspaper that were very disturbing to us, saying, no, politicians are getting 5% increase, there's electricity tariffs and those things. And we did not have information on those things because it was confusing. First, it was reported the line ministry have rejected an increment. Later, it was saying, no, the current mayor is earning 5,000 more than the former mayor. So now we are saying as an entity, when a journalist call me tomorrow and say, what is the position of the movement? Why must I operate on rumors and allegations that are coming from the media while I have people that we have given mandate to represent us there and represent the masses? So we are organized as a movement. We have a structure within the Windhoek leadership called the AR Caucus. So that AR Caucus manages the affairs of the city with specific individuals. Some are in terms of the legal aspect, the programs of the city, and all those things, like our program WRT, what can be achieved dealing with coalition partners. So we set as a caucus and say, these are 2 representatives, they are accountable to the movement. We are going to call them in so they can come and brief us what is happening here, because we can't operate on speculations. So we had to call them in and say, no, they must come in and explain. How are the politicians getting increment if we don't agree in principle as a movement? In fact, we're saying they can even reduce because what people get is too much. It's a part-time job. You cannot get 30,000, 40,000 while you are working somewhere, maybe getting 5,000 already. We're already very clear in terms of that to say the remuneration is too much. They can even be reduced because it's on a part-time basis. You can go look for a job somewhere. That's why we had to call them in. We have written to both of them. It's llse Keister, it's activist Job Amupanda, and say, we are hearing this step, you are coming in to explain this thing to the leadership. Unfortunately, that the activist in chief was involved in a car accident, we all know. He was in bed rest. Then immediately after that, there was a workshop on land and housing. So they couldn't come in, but we gave them instruction that it's even good for them to come and explain after the resolution that were taken from the land and housing workshop and what really transpired there. Because everyone must bring a report and statement and say, council resolution of maybe 2019 resolve for salary increment. So we know there's not some sort of gimmick there. Once we demand accountability outside, we also do it inside. The organization, we have now a constitution that is governing our affairs, and all individuals are subordinate to the organization. So there's no one that is above the organization or someone. All of us. So if I'm wrong, you'll see if I say things here that are in contradiction with the movement, you will see, yeah, I'm summoned tomorrow and maybe be taken for disciplinary. So there's no matter of gimmick, but we understand the circumstances is because the head of the organization happens to be a deployee at the City of Windhoek. That's what maybe brought. But for us, when we are summoning, we are not summoning you as a head of the organization. We are summoning you as a deployee of the AR movement to the City of Windhoek. And also there's a difference. What have contested in Windhoek is AR Windhoek. The affirmative repositioning movement, we are not in any leadership with government or any entity. There is a structure called AR Windhoek, the same way we registered AR Valves by AR Swakopmund. So AR Windhoek has its own leadership. I'm not part of that leadership. They have a chairperson with ECN and all those things. So it's a town structure. We are operating at the national level. So they then decide to come and consult the national leadership and say, no, we're not happy, these things are happening, can we please come and get a proper briefing? We've done that informally, but since we are organized, we document things and so forth, we are still going to meet them tomorrow on Friday, and the media will be informed, of course, transparency, accountability, very important principle to us. Indeed. So the activist in chief was brought in and will be meeting us to brief us on the workshop, as well as what transpired with those what have happened. But of course, we take note of the propaganda machinery and those things that are happening. Of course, they have to exist, and it's a political arena. So you cannot, people who have more than 2.6 million in this country, everyone has this view. You cannot be responding to the view of each and every person in the country. But it's that we will continue providing direction to society, and we are committed to serving the residents of Windhoek. But journalists also play a role, because what is disturbing is everyone attributes anything of City of Windhoek to AR. There's an impression created that Amunime them are in charge of the City of Windhoek. I cannot even get water to drink there. I'm not in charge of, AR is not in charge of the city. The coalition is in charge of the City of Windhoek. Job has no executive power to give himself land, give his friend, give the movement or whoever. There's nothing like that. It's a collective leadership. The council is the highest decision-making body that takes decision. Is in a coalition. Everything that is done, there must be consultation. What is IPC saying? What is NUDO saying? What is PDM saying? What is our say? Then you discuss, then a decision is made. But the creation is saying, no, AR failed, they are exempting the other people. Because we understand the expectation is very high. But we are not in charge of Windhoek. The coalition is in charge of Windhoek, not us. We are part of a coalition.
Indeed. Yes. I think you've made your point very clear there, Simon. So thank you for coming, and we look forward to the outcome of your
engagement.
Your engagement with your deployees on the City of Windhoek.
Yes, definitely.
So then we would know whether it was a gimmick.
Yeah, definitely we will be the first one to call the Namibian Sun, so we come and brief and give feedback again. Maybe we are calling someone, or we are disciplining somebody, or maybe we are going to applaud them and say they did very well. So the expectation will be from that engagement.
Indeed. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Toivo.
That is Simon Amunime. He is the spokesperson of the Affirmative Repositioning movement, giving us some briefings of what's happening at AR. Thank you for watching.